Be ready, guys. 5 seconds. Start. I shall now give a brief survey of the provisions in the bill which are designed to encourage investments in productive enterprises to stimulate higher productivity as well as exports and to provide resources for expansion of industry. In order to encourage investment by individuals and Hindu undivided families in the equity shares of new industrial companies in India, provision has been made for the grant of tax-free tax credit certificates to them with reference to their subscriptions to eligible issues of capital by such companies for a period of 4 financial years commencing with the financial year in which the investment is made. The amount of the tax credit certificates is to be circulated at a slab system of rates and will be limited to rupees 1,250 for each financial year on a total investment of rupees 30,000. Under the original provision in the bill, only the first subscriber to eligible issues of capital qualifies for the tax credit certificates. Considering the fact that a substantial part of the capital issues made in recent months has had to be taken up and is still held by financial institutions which underwrote those issues, the eligibility for tax credit certificates has been extended to individuals and Hindu undivided families who purchase shares forming part of an eligible issue of capital from an underwriter declared as such in the relevant prospectus. Incentives for increased industrial production as well as for the more efficient use of the capital already invested are provided in the form of tax credit certificates calculated with reference to the central excise duty payable on increased production in the relevant year over that of the base year and with reference to the additional amount of corporation tax payable by a company in the relevant year over that payable by it in the base year. The amount of the tax credit certificates granted for these purposes is required to be used for discharging debt, obligations, acquisition of capital assets in India, including construction of a building for the purpose of the business and, in the case of a company, also for the redemption of its debentures. This would enable industrial units to pay off the monies which they had borrowed for expanding their productivity capacity or alternatively to plow back a larger portion of their current earnings for the purpose of expansion. As stated in the Finance Ministry's budget speech, it is necessary to provide some more assistance to our export industry on a discriminating and selective basis in order to mitigate the disadvantages under which it operates in the foreign market and to help it achieve its full competitive position. The tax credit certificates to be issued with reference to the value of exports will, I expect, provide an impetus for increasing our export potential and augment our foreign exchange earnings. In this connection, it is proposed to set up an advisory board on tax credit certificates for our exports to advise government regarding the commodities for which the certificates should be granted as also the rates. The board will, wherever necessary, invite the commercial interests concerned to present their views before it. The Commerce Secretary will be the chairman of the board and a senior officer each from the Ministry of Finance and the ministry in charge of the export commodity concerned will be members. The recommendations of the board will enable the government to take informed decisions with regard to the grant of these certificates. The measures for encouraging investment of surplus funds in production channels include a provision for revival in a modified form of the exemption from wealth tax of individuals and Hindu undivided families on the value of their investments in equity shares of industrial companies. This exemption will be available to individuals and Hindu undivided families on the value of any equity shares held by them in an industrial company where such shares form part of the initial issue of equity share capital made by the company after the 31st March 1980 and will extend over a period of 5 successive assessment years commencing with the assessment year next following the date on which the company commences the operations for which it has been established. Madam, the bill contains a scheme for voluntary disclosure of unaccounted income during a period of 3 months from 1st March to 31st March 1985. Tax is payable on the amount declared at the ad hoc rate of 60%. with a rebate of 5% of the tax where the declaration has been made and the tax has also been paid not later than 31st March 1985, where the declarant is unable to pay the tax. Mr. Vice Chairman Sir, the compulsory deposit scheme which was introduced in 1974 was partially withdrawn in 2007 for the lower income group, and it has continued for income groups having an income of rupees 15 lakh and above per year. Sir, the objective of the bill is laudable as being anti-inflationary and to save what is called conspicuous consumption. But is the government really serious about the whole matter? Sir, it has been reported in the press that the government wants to impound 50% of the dearness allowance due to the central government employees. Why has this dearness allowance become due? It became due from the month of March and May this year because the average 12 monthly index crossed 400 and 408 respectively. Not only that, last month a third installment has become due because the industrial consumer price index has gone up to 453. All this is because the government's policy about controlling the prices has been a complete failure. Without controlling the price line, the government will not be able to achieve anything. It will help neither the government nor the poorer sections of the people. I think this government has not decided what should be its price policy. The price policy has to be integrated with the policy relating to incomes and wages, and unless the policy is settled by the government, it is no use having only the compulsory deposit scheme against those who are regular, monthly salaried workers or those of higher income groups. But even though they may be of higher income groups, with the high escalation of costs and the index going up so steeply, their purchasing power is already eroded. Therefore, I would like to know from the government what step it is going to take for the stabilization of cost of living, which has to be the main objective of any economic policy. Sir, stabilization of cost of living has been given a go-by. Nothing has been done to control the prices. On the other hand, black market and a parallel economy and flourishing prices of ordinary vegetables like the cauliflower are rupees 25 per kilo and tomatoes are selling at rupees 28 per kilo. Everything has become so costly. Still, the government wants to attack those people who are only wage earners and whose incomes are fixed. There is a fear that with the financial accounting year coming to a close, the bonus question will come up, and this government, which has no other policy except to fleece the workers and its employees, will come forward with a sort of an ordinance or a bill by which they will deprive the workers of their bonus, or they may ask them to deposit it with the government. As I said earlier, this government must decide about its policy. The government must come out with decision to have a national pay policy for all the government servants, including those of the state governments, and therefore it is very essential that a national pay commission should be appointed to decide the policy so that the working classes and employees can cooperate in the economic development of the country. I find that the government is not taking any steps to prevent black marketing or to run the public distribution system effectively. Hardly 4 lakh public distribution shops have been opened. As against the total population and the working class population, it is a very meager number. Therefore, the worst affected persons due to the rising prices are the poor people, the toiling masses, and the entire working class. Therefore, sir, my submission is that instead of continuing such schemes and having only piecemeal legislations, will the government decide a price policy for stabilization of the cost of living, which is very essential to have more economic development and prosperity. If they really want the employees to be partners in industry, the government must accept in principle that the fruits of prosperity must be shared by the working classes, and therefore the time has come when participation of labor in management has got great importance. Otherwise, we are caught in such a vicious circle that no progress can be made. What is happening now is the rich are becoming richer and all the black marketeers are having a field day. We have heard of the prices of land in Bombay and other things, and how everything is being exploited by the big businessmen, smugglers and others who are having a field day in the country. Therefore, I am opposed to this type of ordinance. Sir, the government has adopted a novel method for solving the economic problems of our country. When the budget was presented, they did not spell out the terms.